Hi, Sis and Margaux, and welcome to FemGems podcast.
Hi,
Hi,
thanks for
Dora.
having us.
Thanks so
Awesome to
much.
be here.
Likewise. Thanks so much for taking the time to share your story with us today. Tell us a little bit about your first touch with entrepreneurship. Like, who or what introduced you to the world of startups, and how did you decide to take the leap yourself?
Sure, Margaux, you
Um,
want to start?
yeah, sure. Berlin. So we're talking to you from Berlin. Both being foreigners, Berlin was a huge factor in all of that. But for my side, so I have a quite general background of business school, basically. And back then, that was 10 years ago. Back then, when everybody was looking or doing internships in corporates, already back then I was terrified of that and of having to specialize immediately in finance or even in marketing or in like it was really not for me. I wanted to do a bit of many things and I had no idea what I wanted to do. So that's how I discovered startups actually, because I did all my internships in startups, which attracted me because you could really take responsibility and do things and not just ultra specialize in counting numbers. And then yeah, it was like a discovery. It was awesome, and then I knew I wanted to continue in that. And the fun thing is, back then it was not at all the trend to go into startups. I mean, especially not in France at the time. I'm French.
Mhm.
Like the startup scene was non-existent in Paris.
What year
Um,
are you talking about?
we're talking about 2010, 2011.
Mhm.
So yeah, so people who would go into startups, I mean, it was like the internships are the first jobs nobody wanted. And now 10 years later, everybody wants to be a founder and it's so cool to be working in a startup, right?
Mhm.
um and so yeah, so that was that. And so since the situation was like that in Paris, I came right after business school for my first job in Berlin, because Berlin was already much more advanced. And that's how the whole story started.
Mhm. And how did you decide to found your own company?
So quite quickly, I knew I wanted to have mine at some point, because I mean, same topics, not wanting to be bored and wanting to do many things and not wanting to specialize. So I quickly understood, with your own company, you really do what you want, and many things. I started a first company actually 5 years ago. It was a booking platform for beach beds and umbrella in southern Europe's beaches. So completely different industry.
Mhm.
Yeah, and basically that was I was new, so any occasion that came, I took the leap. And then that didn't work, and I knew I wanted to do my own company again. So that's what led me to Circles, basically.
Sis, what about you? How did you first get in touch with entrepreneurship?
Yeah, actually, funnily enough, maybe a little bit similar to Margot when I graduated my studies in Vienna back then. I'm originally from Israel, from Tel Aviv, and I went to Vienna to study. And when I graduated, I did not even have a chance to get into internships in Austrian corporates. Um, it was just not the vibe back then, of letting international people, or at least it was very very few. And and I wanted to actually back then do something with my passion, which was fashion. So I partnered up with a local guy, with an Austrian guy, and we opened an online shop for Israeli fashion. So it was Tel Aviv designers, and we sold them in Austria. And I mean, that was a crazy ride. I loved it. I loved everything about it. Kind of, mixing all my passions and my background and my current life, and yeah. And then in the end, yeah, he took over, and I left Austria and came to Berlin. That was at least the very first touch point. And then when I came to Berlin, I just I kept working at different startups, different industries, and I also got married and had a baby. And somewhere around this journey of mine, I also discovered that my actual calling is women and female health. I did a yoga teacher training, and focused also on specializing prenatal and postnatal. So I kept myself around this world, and that was also a little bit entrepreneurial, I guess, being a yoga teacher and working in different marketing positions in startups. And I just said, just keep learning, keep doing, as exactly as Margaux said, by the way, like you keep doing different tasks. And even though sometimes it's chaotic, it's difficult, it's demanding like hell, for me, what kept me going is just, you're learning, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, like just keep, soaking it up. Because at some point I knew, yeah, I would have to found something of my own.
Great. Thanks for sharing. How did circles begin? So, can you walk us through the process of coming up with the initial idea to where you are today?
So circles is a combination of factors. So it started around 3 years ago. It's been a long ride, even though we're fresh on the market. I was back then. My first company had failed. I was working at Rocket Internet, like as an in between. I already knew I wanted to start another company, and I knew it would have to. It would be around women. I wanted to help women, whether in, you know, whatever topic, entrepreneurship, health, etc. Also, femtech was we were starting to talk a lot about femtech. So I was actually quickly. I knew it would be about femtech. I was exploring the femtech industry. My job brought me to San Francisco. I was opening basically a subsidiary of the company there. And there, I mean, talking about femtech, not much was happening in Europe yet, but in SF, everything was there. All the companies that were starting to be meaningful were there, apart from Clue. So I took the opportunity to go and meet as many founders, investors, people from the industry as possible to really learn about what was succeeding, what people were looking at, what was missing, etc., etc. I mean, especially the gaps in health and medicine and research and everything. And my goal was to obviously build a network and find an angle for a company. At the same time, I was personally, like many of us, changing my habits in consumption, whether it's food consumption, like going more healthy, being more careful what I put in my body, like menstrual hygiene products, cosmetics, etc., all of that. And I stopped taking the pill. And that caused a hormonal like nightmare, hell. Like actually, I didn't know it was that common, but I started having acne all over the face and in the back, and hair loss, and a lot of effect, like side effects like that. And yeah, and obviously doctors didn't give me any solutions. The only answer is, well, go back to the pill. I mean, you stop the pill, you
Wow.
don't even want a child, right? So why do you complain? um, so I started looking for natural solutions, and a whole new universe opened up. And it was basically a world of women in the same situation, about quitting the pill, but also about other gynecological issues, meeting on Facebook groups to exchange advice, solidarity, and just tell their story. Um, and I discovered that all these women were giving each other, grandma recipes, like, oh, you should take that supplement, or you should take that plant. I tried, it's awesome, it works. And very quickly I thought, this is freaking dangerous, because I mean, people think plants are completely harmless, and it's just like, oh, take a tea and everything is going to be okay. But it's not like that. I mean, let's not forget that medication was actually is actually made from plants. So it's not at all that easy. And everything that was happening in these groups was not efficient at all. And I could see the demand growing and growing and growing. So all of that together, like understanding that there was already a big gap there in from the femtech industry point of view, and the tech scene point of view, and seeing the demand on these specific topics from the women, that's how the angle for circles came. And there started a big road of, I mean, the idea was there, but obviously we're talking about it's somewhat medical, even though we're dealing with I mean, we're doing natural products and staying in the what's in the regulations of what's allowed in the natural space. It is still medical, so it was 2 years basically of research involving doctors from different disciplines, like asking women about their symptoms, any gynecological symptoms. Like we interrogated 3,000 women to really assess everything that was going on, where they didn't have solutions, which solutions they wanted, etc., etc. Yeah, and the result of that was being able to finally launch circles in this year, 2 years later, in 2021. And along the way, cis joined.
Awesome. Yeah, this is going to be my next question. But before we
Yeah.
dive into this, you just mentioned that your first company failed. Can you tell us? And then you wanted to found the next one. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, how did it fail, and how did you find or create the motivation afterwards to go on to the next one?
So my first company, so it was a booking platform for beach beds and umbrellas in Southern Europe, in Italian and Spanish beaches. Um, Basically makes sense because in these countries beaches are not public, like it's mostly private beaches where you must go to and rent a beach bed and umbrella, and in the middle of the summer it gets incredibly crowded and hard to find a spot. And basically the only ones that get a spot are Germans who go there at 7 a.m. to put their towel on the on the beach bed. That was kind of the joke that we were hearing a lot. So a digital solution made sense. I came in, so it was not my idea. Basically, I met some angels in Berlin, Italians, but in Berlin, that were had that idea. They were both from the industry and from or yeah, regular angels. They were looking for a founder to basically execute the idea. So it was perfect for me. I was in between two things. I was looking to build something, so it made sense. And it didn't work for many reasons. I mean, it went on for a year, and we built quite a big team, put the product on the market and everything. But so my first mistake was that the full control of the company was in the hands of these angels. And that was the first thing. I mean, with their great idea and all the good they wanted for the company, they had too much control. I didn't have enough. I was the entrepreneur there and the tech savvy person, but I couldn't get them to agree on what needed to be done, basically. So that was the first problem: constant difficulty to be able to execute things. And then the second problem was more on a market timing issue. I mean, especially in Italy, for example, this market is at the time was not ready to get digital. It's industries that are very traditional, like beach clubs are passed from father to son. There's a lot of people don't want to declare money. There's a lot of black money being done, some mafia involved, stuff like that. So digitalization was a little bit tight. So yeah, for these two
I'm
reasons. But
guessing
I would say, yeah,
I'm
go
guessing
ahead.
the first problem is why you went for bootstrapping with Circles now. Is that correct? Is Circles is bootstrap? There's no
Yeah,
VC. involved, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, that's related obviously to this experience, but not only. I mean, I was also young and unexperienced, to be honest. I mean, a lot of mistakes are made when you're 25 and doing a first company that, I mean, yeah, is also
Or doing
allowing me not
whatever.
to make these mistakes.
25.
Yeah, or doing whatever, exactly. So so yeah, so circles is bootstraps for that reason, but I mean, raising money is not excluded. It's just we want to do it in a smart way, not too soon, keeping as much control as possible. I mean, yeah, like we're definitely not going for the typical, "Ooh, let's raise money as fast as possible immediately," and just for the sake of claiming that we raised X millions, which in any case doesn't make any sense for a D2C model. So yeah.
Okay. Sis, how did you join as a co-founder and when?
I joined exactly a year ago, I think. Yeah, and Margaux was looking for co-founders, and it was just so awesome to be somehow in the same circle. We were both in the factory, and I was working at Kelea, which is a pregnancy app. So already in the femtech, industry of Berlin, which is still very small, and so that was how we met. And I mean, it was. I really remember our first call. For me, it was a no-brainer. Like the topic is extremely related to my own experiences with hormonal imbalances, with issues that started basically with my first period, um, and I've seen the health system in many countries, not just in Germany. So it's really not even specific to here. And I was, regardless of what I had, and it was, I had always a very strong period pain, and then I was struggling with miscarriages, basically pregnancies that didn't last. And then recently, my PMS symptoms became so unbearable that I just didn't know anymore what's going on. And it was not anymore these like 3 days before your period when you're just kind of like off and everything is annoying. It became like 2 weeks of the month where I'm next to myself, kind of. I'm not who I am. I don't recognize myself anymore. And there's absolutely no one who can help you with that. Not, I mean, with period pain, the doctor's reaction is always the same: take painkillers or take the pill. And they always repeat the sentence: it's normal, nothing to do. Yeah, it's normal. Try to.
So it's not normal.
Can we say it out loud? Can we scream? No, it should not be the answers that you get from doctors or from anyone, from your mother, from your school teacher, from your sports teacher back in school. Remember that. Yeah, no, it should not be accepted anymore, in my opinion. Yeah, and regarding PMS, I this is not just one day of period pain. We're talking 2 weeks of a person's life every month. So there's also no magic pill there. um, and there was nothing really available from anyone to support that. So I was again with myself googling, you know, day and night, what can be done, and obviously through yoga and Ayurveda and just healthy lifestyle. Of course, I fell in love with this approach of nutrition and medicinal plants and minerals. And yeah, and it was really, and then when Margot and I talked, it was like, yes.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So, what makes a great co-founder from your point of view? This is a question to both of you. Like, how do you know you found the one? Because we've talked many times on this podcast about how having a co-founder is like marrying to someone, or even worse. So, what is important in this process of getting to know each other and finding out if you can work well together, if it's a match? How did you go about that?
So we didn't know each other. So obviously, it's a challenge. I mean, it has pros and cons, right? I mean, often people say it's better to be friends before, because at least you've got the trust factor there that is checked. But then friends cannot work well sometimes together for many other reasons. So in our case, we didn't know each other. So actually, the first thing we did was a sort of co-founder questionnaire with like more than 50 questions that would cover topics such as I mean, obviously, how do you work? You know, like what are your skills, your qualities, your what you do less well, or stuff like basic stuff like that. But also, and more importantly, things like what kind of culture do you want to build in a company? What do you personally expect from building a company? What's your objective? What type of company do you want to build? Do you want to build a multi-million company right away that goes and raises millions, or do you want to do the other way and just pay yourself a small salary and just stay a two-employee company forever? I mean, I'm just talking extremes, but you know, this is the type of questions, and this is fundamental in my opinion, because I mean, this is exactly what, like, if it's a different of, if the problem is lacking a skill, or being I don't know, somebody is not structured and somebody is structured, well, you can always you know, hire someone to fill that gap, or learn to work with the person. But if it's a core issue, like the type of culture you want to build, or the type of company where you want to be 5 years from now, this is what is gonna break instead of make it. So from that, we did that questionnaire, and many things were aligned. So that was already a good sign. And then, I mean, obviously, at some point, we took a leap and started working together.
And what kind of matching score do you need to get to know that this is a good starting point?
It's not as scientific. It's more. It covers basically everything that you should take care of, that you should be
Mm.
mindful of, and then you assess whether the answers work for you or not, right? And there's, I
Right.
mean, yeah, yeah.
And after doing
Can
this
I?
questionnaire, you did a test project together.
Yeah.
So what was that?
I wanted to add something about this questionnaire, because I remember really sitting down and answering all the questions, and it was really like the first time in my life, I think, that I answered those questions with 100% transparency. And that was hard, because normally when you know, like job applications, when you have like, okay, what's your strength and weaknesses, you know, you come up like that with like, yeah, weaknesses, you know, like the tiniest non-problematic things. And I thought like, no, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna write everything, because sooner or later it will come out, and we should know now, you know, if that's something we can deal with or not. And I was very happy, like we didn't even talk about that, like we weren't really like talking on a daily basis or anything back then. And I was so happy that when Margauxs questionnaire came, because right, each of the, you know, person is filling it, and I felt that immediately that she also, you know, that Margaux also did it completely honestly, and
Mm,
kind of like, yeah, that's who I am. So that was really cool
great.
on its
And what was
own,
this
kind of.
first? Yeah. And what was this first test project that you did together? Long did it go for, and what did you work on?
So Margaux was back then still in research phase, and because I was working, you know, in pregnancy, and had a lot of insights on that world, and also being pregnant and having a kid in Germany myself, that was my go-to back then. And so I helped her kind of assessing the German market when it comes to pregnancy and pregnant women needs.
Yeah, so I'm just curious how long the project went for, and did you set like specific objectives to kind of find out if you work well together or not?
It was rather short, but then right after that, we started also working on doing more. As Sis said, we were still in research mode, so on doing more research together, etc. So, and also, I mean, our situation was a bit specific because we were and are still in a way funded by Silicon Alley, so which is running the Berlin Founders Fund. Basically, they are receiving public money from the Berlin Senate and the European Union and redistributing it to founders, right? So, and basically, the money is given in the form of stipendiums, so grants, and we are being financed this way. So basically, I had already received this grant, which goes it's like a year of monthly salary for a year. And so quite quickly, basically, I brought this in to be funded by this as well. So the setup is a bit specific because obviously it was not right away. Okay, we pay each other, like you join as a co-founder and immediately we pay each other, or invest. I mean, we did invest our money, but like not on paying ourselves, right? So the investment is less, the risk is least as well. So it was smooth to start working together, having that sort of safety net of the grant.
Did you have
And
to
then
found the
we
company together, like legally? On
not right away, like we could do it later. So let's say it was a smooth start, and it was great to start working with a co-founder that you don't know in these conditions, because we always had the option to, thanks to this, but also out of experience, obviously, to back out if needed. So that was easy, and then everything went well. So so all good.
Great. So, Sis, if you want to add anything to the co-founder question, like what makes a great co-founder match? Because this is, obviously very relevant question for early stage founders. So, if there's anything you want to share from your experience.
I guess you only know by doing, like many other things in life, and it really is in a way that's what an entrepreneur needs to have, right? Like this taking a leap and see how it goes. I'm a very intuitive person. I'm not saying my intuition is always right, but it's just how I operate. And you know, once I felt, after several conversations, after doing the questionnaire, after doing this project, after also understanding where's the company right now, what's the vision, everything is aligned with what I believe in, what I want. And for me, it was also, just the energy that I felt from Margaux. I don't know how to call it without sounding too weird. You know,
Nice.
so I just said, yeah, what could happen, what could possibly happen, right? Like, okay, it's not working, we say goodbye, and you start a new adventure.
All right, so let's talk about circles finally. So, can you tell us a little bit more about the products that you developed, and then about your crowdfunding campaign?
Okay, so actually, Sis is going to talk about the crowdfunding campaign. I'll quickly pitch the brand and products, and then give you the space to explain what we're doing right now. So, Circles, we are basically a brand, and we develop natural solutions for women's hormonal issue, to help women relieve their hormonal issues that translate into symptoms such as menstrual pain, period pain, PMS, premenstrual syndrome, hormonal acne. That's for pains related to the menstrual cycle, but also issues such as premenopause symptoms, genital health issues, UTI, yeast infections, postpartum symptoms, anything that can happen, that can go wrong in the hormonal life of a woman between the first period and menopause. And that's approximately 40 years of life in which many, many, many things can go wrong. The most obvious and the most urgent problem was indeed the menstrual cycle. So, period pain, PMS, everything we said that people think is normal, but it's not. And doctors don't care about, don't give you solutions, and especially not natural solutions. So that was the most urgent. But the vision for the company is really to really address these 40 years of life, because there's so many things unaddressed. It's really crazy. If you start digging, it's insane. And it's deeply rooted in our culture as well, to consider that this is normal, that women don't really suffer, it's all in the head, and that it's a non-issue. But then when you dig, and we did that big research with 3,000 women and talking to countless health professionals, more than 80% women have these issues, and almost 100% of women are going to have one of these issues at some point in their life, without solutions, and with people telling them they're just crazy. So first of all, the problem is huge, but also the market is huge. So let's go. So anyway, so that's what we're doing, and we're developing these natural solutions for that. Right now we have a range of 3 products. We have a supplement for formulation for basically hormonal balance and to fight PMS symptoms. Another supplement formulation against hormonal acne. Great. And a tea for period pain. And that's the beginning. Obviously, our aim is to expand the ranges of products into other health verticals or further in this vertical. We launched successfully on the French market in February this year with a crowdfunding campaign. So actually crowdsourcing campaign. So basically a platform equivalent to Kickstarter or Start Next, but French. And it was very successful. We got more than 1,000 backers, ordering more than 3,000 products, and raising 60,000 euros in funds. So that's really good, and that gave us a good kickstart to now open and launch on the German market. And Sis is going to tell you everything about that.
Yeah. Is it safe to say that like all these types of problems you mentioned are due to hormonal imbalance?
Yeah.
So then my question would be, where does this hormonal imbalance come from? Or like
Okay. So hormonal imbalance is linked to or balance is linked to many factors. More than 80% women have their hormones unbalanced without often knowing why. Factors for that can be one of the most important is food, what you eat. For example, inflammatory food, or too fatty foods, etc., etc. Everything we know as bad foods. Basically, we're talking more and more about that, so people are educated about that. This also has a huge impact on your hormonal balance. We don't know about it, but just like it has impact on your body as a whole, this reflects then on your hormone balance. And the first indicator of hormones that are not balanced anymore is symptoms on your cycle. For example, painful period, symptoms before your period, acne, etc., etc. And then obviously your environment is also has also a big impact. For example, stress. The more you're stressed, the more it impacts your hormones. Endocrine disruptors, we talk a lot about them, but there are more and more in our environment because of smog, because of plastic, because of bad cosmetics, etc., etc. So there's plenty of factors like that, but the result is that more and more women have hormones that are not well balanced, And obviously the pill also has an effect. I mean, while you're on the pill or a hormonal contraceptive, your hormones are artificially balanced, but the second you get out of it, that also occasions a lot of problems, for example what I had. And yeah, but I mean, to illustrate better, if we were living in a world where our hormones were perfectly balanced, sorry, nobody would have period pain, nobody would have symptoms before the period, basically. It's as easy as that. The result is more than 80% women have it, so
Mm, okay. Would you say a factor is also that women's health is like understudied, and like women's body and biology?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's insane the extent to which it's understudied. So the little anecdote, in the 70s, um, back then, where basically a lot of medical research was done, a lot of the medication that we use today was studied and tested in the 70s, actually. Back then, the FDA, so that's the American Health Institution, basically Food and Drugs Administration, they decided to exclude women from clinical trials for the simple reason that they thought that the menstrual cycle was too variable and too random to and risked basically um, impact the clinical trials because of that variability. So women were excluded from all these trials. So basically, the result of that is that a lot of the medication we use today, but and a lot of the things that are taught to doctors in medical curricula, because also a lot of that was written at that time, is based on the body and symptoms and effects of something of a man of 70 kilo. So yeah, so I mean, there's many consequences of that. The most known, for example, we've talked a lot recently about the fact that because of directly because of this, a woman is 7 times more likely to die from a heart attack than a man, because at the ER, basically doctors are not able to assess her symptoms correctly because they know the symptoms of a man but not of a woman. But then in our topic, I mean, obviously it participates in the fact that there's absolutely no medication for women's issues. Actually, until a few years ago, doctors often called them bikini issues. And there's nothing, and it's not studied. I mean, obviously, like menstrual cycles were the reason women were not studied. So why would they study solutions to regulate them, right? So yeah, so I mean, that's the source of many issues, and there's much more. There's society, obviously. Women's pains have been underestimated forever. Yeah, it's a medical social issue. Research is underfunded because of all of this, so it's not getting better. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for the work you're doing, and I'm really glad that you're launching on the German market now. So tell us a little bit about your crowdfunding campaign that's going to enable your launch in Germany.
Right. So after the major success in France, we knew immediately that the next market is Germany, obviously because we live here and that's our immediate environment. And also because the need, of course, is as big as anywhere else. And maybe the readiness of Germans is even higher because they seem to be more advanced in some way when it comes to plants and supplements, and in general also with talking about their menstruation. I think there's a huge movement right now happening in Berlin. Not everywhere in Germany, I can tell you that. It's definitely more the big cities, which is not at all the majority of this land, but still you see already some companies that are breaking taboos around menstruation, about what type of products we put in our body. I'm talking about Einhorn, of course. I'm talking about the female company, Uya, and many more. So we are in a good company here. That's one thing I wanted to say. And now to the crowdfunding, which is launching today. We are really, really stoked about our products, that their efficiency, and just the way they were welcomed in France so much. And I know that the demand from the local market, from here, from Berlin or Germany, was so high. So finally, ladies, it is time to pre-order your menstrual help. Um, and we are, yeah, we partnered up with a lot of other brands that believe in our message and our mission. So there's a lot coming up, which I'm really excited about. We are going to do some different bundles with different products together with our products, but also, yeah, just we're going to do some events later on this month with different female organizations. So this is the first one to kick off with FemGem. So thank you very much for that, for the
Awesome.
kickoff.
Of course, we're super happy to support, and we're going to put so you'll find the link to the crowdfunding campaign in the show notes or the description of the video you're watching. So you can just click on it and check it all out.
Yeah, and of course we are here if you have any questions about the products, about your symptoms, about the color of the blood of your menstruation, anything that you never dare to ask, we are here for
Yeah,
that.
awesome.
I
Yeah,
just
let's
wanted
talk
to
about
ask.
it openly. Yeah.
I just wanted to add. So obviously, from a business perspective, it's a bet to launch a second market so fast after. I mean, obviously, we launched successfully in France.
When was that? The
That
launch in
was in
France?
February, so less than 6 months ago.
This year. Okay,
Yeah,
wow.
this year,
Wow.
exactly. So it's a bet. It's a bet to already expand to another market, but we feel it's now. Like it has to be now. The demand is crazy. Women are suffering. I mean, we know we have the solution, so let's not wait, right? A typical company would not expand to a second market within the same year. It would more be like 1 or 2 years after. So we really need support. Basically, that's why we're doing this second crowdfunding campaign on a pre-sale model, because obviously we don't have the resources to go big and invest in marketing just like that to open a country, right? So we need support. We need this brand to exist on the German market, and that's why this crowdfunding campaign is so important. Um, and our products, I mean, they exist in the sense that they are formulated, they're produced. We know they work. We've tested them on now hundreds of women. They're 100% natural. They're vegan. The packaging is completely sustainable, made mostly of paper and vegetable plastic. So everything is there, but we need to reach women and tell them basically you're suffering, it's not normal, there's a solution for that. Even if you've never thought about it, it's there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love your message. I love what you're doing, and I hope everybody watching or listening to this is going to check it out right now. As I said again, the link is in the
Yeah.
show notes or the description of this video. So go ahead and support this very awesome mission that Circles has. All right, so hard cut to the next question. How has your life changed, and how have you changed since you founded your own company? What kind of challenges or fears or insecurities did you have to overcome along the way?
Margot?
No, go sis.
Me. Okay. Um, what a big question. What a big question, first of all. Thank you for letting me think about my life for a second and reflect. it's, uh, it's, I think, important. I think there's after so many years of working in other organizations, I think there's a mind shift that needs to happen when when you're doing your own thing. And right, this notion of okay, I work from X to Y, and then I take my holiday. Obviously this doesn't exist anymore. Also, what I noticed, the tendency is to start working instead of 8 or 9 hours a day, you start working 12 hours a day. This is, for me, not sustainable, and not the reason why I turned to entrepreneurship in the first place. So I think there's a lot of self-discipline that needs to take place, I guess, because at least for me, I'm talking about myself now. Also, no, also because I have a family and I cannot neglect them completely, even though sometimes I want to, and sometimes I really, let's be honest, do I really want to make dinner and bath and read a story, or do I want to keep push? Sometimes you are in this mode, and yeah, but that's it's just life, right? I cannot neglect my daughter, nor family life in general. So this, how should I say, dance with time from me, time for the family, time for the startup. It's ongoing and it's never going to disappear. So this is something that I think everyone should find their own rhythm, but definitely make it breathe in a way. Like I found that I'm, more productive in the morning. So even though my team and Margaux starts a bit later, I really want to make use of these hours in the morning, and then start working, and then obviously our evening time I'm not working, I'm with the family, and that's probably where Margaux is pushing more. And I think this is also maybe something to discuss, right, with your co-founders, um, how it works. I really think it's really my assumption, but I think women tend to have more guilt and maybe more like self-doubt in a lot of things. Like if you're not working, maybe you think like you constantly have a feeling that you're not working enough. This is something that I know for myself, this syndrome.
Yeah,
And
I've heard this 100 times.
yeah, exactly, like you keep hearing that. And I think this is something to talk about in different circles. I don't know, maybe in FemGem you're addressing this. Again, I call it a syndrome because I think it is. And what also really helped me not to lose my mind, because of course at some points, in the crowdfunding in France and in some other stressful situations, you feel like okay, this is not the life I wanted, like that's not what I signed up for. um, because I know what it feels like to be burnt out from my experience working with other startups. So that was the point where I actually turned to a personal coach, and that was a woman who coached me for 3 months. And this is something I recommend really anyone. Maybe that can be even in a in someone in an environment like FemGem or like another accelerator. But she really just helped me with really simple stuff, like what to do when you get up in the morning, how not to get stressed right away, really like hacking my day basically. And
Yeah.
because I am holding a lot of balls in my hand, right? Like the house, the home, me as a
Juggling a lot
woman,
of things. Yeah.
the business, which is super super important right now. And we're in building mode, so of course this is not the time to lean back. And this can be, of course, this can cost a lot of energy. And because I am not that young anymore, I I know my limits, And I think this is probably something that everyone should, think about. I know my limits, and I know that it will, if I cross them, it will not be sustainable. And I want this one to be for the long run, if you know what I mean. That's why I definitely invested in coaching. I'm very human, so of course when the coach is telling me try to meditate, try to journal, try to, like, of course this is not something I really manage to do every day, but it's like these kind of impulses that you have, right? How things can be differently, and not right away to go into the madness and the stress. I think that's my answer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome. Thank you for sharing.
to add a little bit on that, I mean, everything that Sis said, it was actually part of the topics we discussed in the co-founder questionnaire. But I mean, also in general, since the beginning, all our talks, we want to build a company where we as founders have a good personal life work balance, but also our employees. Like, we do not want to become this company where there is pressure put, and especially not working in this industry, trying to make life better for women. Like, why would we go and replicate, like, the whole pressure put, and especially in topics regard like maternity, etc. That being said, we also made the choice to bootstrap, which obviously requires a maybe bigger sacrifice at the beginning, because you do everything yourself. Obviously the hours become, as was Sis was saying, become 12 instead of less. I mean, any founder at the beginning works a lot, but I mean, we are sacrificing a lot right now. I mean, also investing a lot ourselves, etc. But that's also for the sake of keeping control, and later also not being slaves of, or not slaves, but like not being controlled by our investors, because the second you have investors, then you're not the boss, they're the boss. And that's what we want to try to avoid, because obviously, yeah, that's where, I mean, it's a shorter term sacrifice to then have a longer term, easier life, and life under our own terms, basically.
Yeah,
But I
awesome.
wouldn't I wouldn't lie and say, oh yeah, you can definitely be a founder and work 9 to 5, because this is how life should be, right? Let's not kid ourselves. There are sacrifices, because you're building a business. I mean, you're not juggling with a one task job anymore. You're juggling with 1,000 tasks and people to manage, etc. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, but and still, I mean, you've made some choices, like the ones to bootstrap, that are just aligned with your mission and with the products, and you want to build your company for your customers and not for your investors. So yeah, way to go! Congrats on that. And I'm curious to learn, like, what have you learned in the process of starting your own business, in terms of setting priorities. Like, how did you learn to set priorities right? And how do you manage your time? How do you make sure you invest the right amount of time and on the right things? Can you share some best practices that you've established that work for you?
So I can definitely speak from the point of view of a mother, which is, I think, adds a little bit more complexity with time and responsibilities. And what I learned was, for the first time actually in a long time, that I have to communicate my needs very, very like clearly to my partner and to my 3-year-old daughter, and and those needs can be, I need to work, please go pick up please go pick up today, or can you come home early, I need to work. Or it can also be, my head is exploding, I cannot look at the screen anymore, I'm going for a walk right now, bye. And this I learned over now the last couple of months, where of course workload is getting kind of serious, and I learned that if I'm not really being responsible towards myself, no one else will. um, so this is also what I want to say to others. Please take care of yourselves. That's as they say, right? You're the most precious resource for your business. So priorities, I guess, you know, I think the first thing that kind of being cut from your life is maybe social life. I'm not as social anymore, because it's really either the immediate family or the business. But we also launched in a very interesting time, basically the corona and the lockdowns. So I think in a weird way it helps us to focus, because there was really nothing to do, especially here in Berlin. We had crazy long winter, lockdown and everything. Um so I guess social life was anyway not the huge sacrifice to make.
Yeah,
But yeah,
we were
from
lucky on the FOMO side of things.
yeah, nothing was happening. It's starting now, I guess, a little bit. But from my side, I can say that I didn't visit home. I didn't visit, Israel and my family and friends for a long time, because, I guess priorities. But, you know, I can still do that in a couple of months. And I think, obviously these kind of things, I know Margaux the same. So these kind of things, you need to kind of calculate in advance when you go into this kind of adventure.
For me, priorities. It's more centered on the work side of things. I would say the 80-20 rule is fundamental. Identify the 20% of actions or tasks that account for 80% of your results. Whatever the immediate result you're trying to achieve now is. I mean, right now, for example, result is what we're trying to sell. Okay, focus on the activities that bring you to that. It sounds easy, but actually nobody in general applies it, and especially not us women who tend to be perfectionists.
Yeah, want to be perfect with everything and do everything.
Exactly, and any little task needs to be done perfectly, and that is that very easily you lose the sense of priorities with that. And it's even harder when you're bootstrapping and you do have a million tasks on your plate. So remembering always that is fundamental, and also explaining it to employees right away, because also the less experienced you are, the less you know how to prioritize. I mean, that's quite common as well. So it's fundamental for any company, I think, and any funder. For me, it helps so much.
Yeah. So, Sis, you mentioned already a little bit about the way you're taking care of yourself or putting your mental health, physical health first. But like, how can you both share a little bit more on how do you take care of yourself as a founder? How do you we know that 50% of founders develop mental health issues, 95% of startups fail, so these are all things you need to be kind of mindful of. And if you're in it for the long run, then you need to develop a way to manage your energy levels, to take care of your mental, of your physical health, um, and make sure you don't burn out. So how do you do that?
Should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
um, I think I'm just gonna maybe tell you my daily routine, kind of, and instead of just talking generally. So, one thing that really helped me to keep my energy levels up was to get up early. Um, Me personally, because I have a child, it really made a huge difference to wake up to my own terms, and not immediately, oh, breakfast and clothes and this and that, and something that she wants to do right now. It was more about focus on me. And in this time, in this me time in the morning, um, I'm trying to do things that are good for my soul, and that means staying away from screens. Like, don't start the day with screens and emails and DMs and stuff. For me, it also means some kind of movement, because afterwards the day starts and then it's long hours in front of the screen, and just physically, it's just a lot. So for me, it's yoga, and sometimes a little dance, or just like a little self massage, on the neck and shoulders, and focus on your breathing. And by the way, it really, I don't know, I don't think it has to be very long. It can be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but for me, this like element has to be there in the morning. And then something else that I really enjoy doing in the morning is reading something that is non-business related, and it's not reading from a screen. I'm old school. I like reading books. Um, and I don't know, I'm just really into female authors right now, so I'm just like super enjoying that. And then only then,
like novels, right?
yeah,
Not like self-help books, which in the end are also always businessy and
very businessy and very like guilt,
yeah.
like, oh no, I'm not
Like do that and
optimized.
do that and do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, personally, I anyway have this self optimization, need way too much. So I'm also trying to get away from that a little bit. Um, yeah, and for me, because I love coffee, and I know that coffee is really not the best thing for hormones, and has
Okay.
really direct effect on menstrual symptoms. Unfortunately, because that's really a huge love of mine. But the way for me to solve it is really not to have it the first second I open my eyes, but as I said, first have my little ritual, little something, and then like you're really anticipating this cup of coffee, and I really try to then, for me, it becomes very natural to, at this moment, to find things in my head, that I'm grateful for. And it's really by the way, it's all based on, I didn't made up this ritual. It's all based on studies, and it's really hacking your brain and the different hormones that are produced. And because you're doing it in the morning, it sets up the tone of your entire day.
For the day.
Again,
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. I'm not doing it every day. I have my bad days and something I have nothing to be grateful for, but this is my base, or at least what I'm trying to do. And
Awesome.
yeah, I think also Corona taught us a lot in regards to self-care, and a lot about taking a walk. That really became, I think, the highlight of many people, for me as well.
Especially in big cities, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Great.
For me, I would say two things. First, take real breaks. As we have a million things to do, very easily you tend to say, "Oh, I will finish this on the weekend," and working on the weekend becomes a must because you're never done with anything. But then the guilt comes, and yeah, I want to enjoy my weekend. No, clean break weekend. I mean, whether it's just one day because you really have too much to do, but whatever, a real break is fundamental, and it's so easy to let it pass. So yeah, it's self-discipline on that as well. And support system on my side, I'm really lucky because I have my partner is an entrepreneur as well, so at home I have this support system. But if I didn't have it, it would be fundamental to have other people that are going through the same thing. And especially with Corona, we all tended to work from home and be alone with our thoughts and our struggles and everything. And it makes everything so much harder, and so much more dramatic and everything. So just having somebody that understands it to talk to is super important. And that's why actually clubs like FemGems make a lot of sense if you don't have that immediate support system, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I agree with everything you mentioned, and thanks for sharing so openly. Final question that I always ask at the end of our podcast: how would you personally encourage women to turn their ideas into reality, to go for it, to start their own business, if they're thinking about it?
Okay, I can say two things. First, do it. No, it's not that easy.
Just do it.
But yeah, do it because I mean, obviously, I'm talking from the perspective of a person that has a safety net, right? Let's not kid ourselves. A lot of entrepreneurs say, "Yeah, do it. It's so easy. You don't risk anything because blah blah blah." Yeah, but a lot of entrepreneurs are people that are educated, have work or cultural background, and that can land safely on their feet if it doesn't work. But that being said, and like building a business, being an entrepreneur is getting more and more easier. There's funds available, and I'm not just talking about VC money or private funds. I'm talking about also public money. I mean, especially here in Berlin, there's tons of money available for founders. You just need to go and get it. Um, and that's open to anybody, even if you're not from the super cool startup industry and know the right people. So do it. And indeed, like, building a business now is not anymore investing 50,000 euros of your own pocket because of this, and because everything is cheap. Building a website is cheap and accessible to anybody. There's softwares to do everything. So you can really get your idea out and test it for very little investment. So I would do that. I would advise that. And second thing, and especially as a woman and having struggled a lot with it myself, be mindful of imposter syndrome.
Mm.
It's a plague, and this is something that makes you waste so much time. Personally, I mean, especially, I mean, I've had it forever, and as many women, but especially for this company, doing a business in a medical topic and having no medical background myself, at the beginning it really blocked me for a very long time, because it meant going to speak to doctors, going to get doctors help, and that was so freaking hard. I mean, obviously it meant, I mean, I stumbled upon mean people that were, you know, doctors that were like, you don't have anything, you shouldn't do that because you're not a doctor, you don't get it. But but also there were really nice people willing to help and understanding that there is a problem in this industry. Long story short, um, just go and get there. Like, don't be blocked by being scared. It's not always gonna be easy, but the more you do it, the more you're gonna learn that you're perfectly credible and you have the legitimacy to do anything you want. And now I can say that I think, successfully rid of this 30-year imposter syndrome, thanks to just going. But I
Yeah.
wasted probably 6 months or a year in total because of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you can waste much more time with this. So don't do it. You can really learn by doing it, and this is the best way to learn. I remember, like, just by listening to you, I just remembered so many episodes, and I don't think there was anybody on this podcast who didn't go through
Wow.
imposter syndrome or like overcome it along the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks so much for sharing openly, sis.
Yeah. I mean, of course, everything that Margot said, and also I think what there's a new way of leading, I think, today, and a new way of doing things, and Google has a huge part of that, of your day. And when I say Google, I'm talking about this how to dot dot dot. You have no idea how many times I do that a day, and I'm not ashamed to say that, because every day we're doing new things that we never did before, and it doesn't mean that I don't belong in this role. And by the way, this is also true for other um, positions. If you're like suddenly a CMO in a different company, and oh, there's a new platform that we need to explore. How oh no, what do I do? How to da, 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 da. And you have no idea. There's amazing content out there that you can, choose from and learn from. And this is cool. Don't be ashamed if you don't know something. How do I start a new company? Just Google it. How do I
Or join
manufacture?
FemGems.
Yeah, or ask Dora. How do I manufacture something? Like there's a lot
The
of
mic.
stages. There are a lot of stages, right, from idea to execution, and and enough opportunities to say, oh, I don't know how to do it. Yeah, okay, yeah, something else. Then it's not for me. Like that's where I want to say, like we all been through this process, and we got over it, not because we knew before what we were doing. It was just because we were learning on the go. And also, don't be afraid to reach out on LinkedIn, to other founders. You know just don't try not to be shy. I know this is an issue for a lot of introverts, but the more you reach out, the more you ask for help, the more you Google, the more like the easier it gets, and you get really, really good
Yeah.
advice in the end. So
Yeah. Just expand your comfort zone and adopt a growth mindset and
absolutely.
don't stop learning. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing so openly. I really appreciated talking to you, and I hope everyone is at latest now going to your crowdfunding campaign and checking out and ordering the products. I'm super excited to support you on this and wish you good luck with everything you're doing. And thanks again a lot for the work you're doing. It's super important.
Thank you so
Thank you so
much,
much.
Dora. It was really lovely to be here today.